Should I move to DeLand or Daytona Beach, Florida is a question that I often get asked by those considering moving to the Central Florida area. I'm here today near the Boardwalk in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I've lived and sold homes in Central Florida for a long time. So I know all too well that there are both pros and cons to both of these cities, which I'll be addressing today. Towards the end of this video, I'll share which one I like better along with why, so be sure to stick around for that. Let's start with some commonalities of both great cities. They're both in Florida, so there's no state income tax. They both got a ton of sunshine, and Orlando is the largest metro for both DeLand and Daytona Beach. They both got an abundance of old and new housing, and someone looking into buying a home could be looking at similarly priced homes in both areas. The cost of living in both cities is right around the national average, and they're both in Volusia County, where DeLand is the county seat. I consider both cities to be, kind of blue-collar, middle-class cities. So from a generalist perspective, they're kind of cut from the same cloth. LivingCost.net indicates that DeLand is slightly more expensive than Daytona Beach for the cost of living, food, and transportation, although this website also indicates that the monthly salary after taxes is higher in DeLand. Daytona Beach, being a larger city, may offer more jobs, in Daytona Beach, but DeLand may offer more jobs nearby with higher pay, with Lake Mary, Sanford, and Orlando all being much closer than Daytona Beach. DeLand is about 30 miles inland or west of Daytona Beach. At the time of this recording, DeLand has around 42,000 people, whereas Daytona Beach has like 74,000 people. DeLand is just around 18 miles in size, whereas Daytona Beach is much larger at right around 65 square miles. Now, before I get to one of the biggest differences between DeLand and Daytona Beach, if you're finding value here, hit the like and the subscribe buttons. And if you want to be notified when I post other videos like this, then hit that little notification bell. So we see that DeLand is much smaller than Daytona Beach, and DeLand has more of a small town feel too. It seems like there's more festivals in downtown DeLand than Daytona Beach, and although it's speculative, I'm almost certain that DeLand is quieter. When I'm in Daytona Beach, it seems like there's always some kind of siren blaring. It just seems loud. Now maybe maybe I'm just too old, but it just doesn't feel that way over in DeLand. However, Daytona Beach has the beaches, and there's no denying that beaches are a huge reason to move to Daytona Beach, Florida. It's the world's most famous beach after all, and people flock here from all around the world to see them. While these beaches are undeniably fantastic, the feel just inland of those sandy beaches is quite different than over in DeLand. It seems like there's more panhandlers around and there's tourists everywhere. And I've heard some say that they just don't feel safe in Daytona Beach. Now, I'm not saying that I feel that way, but that's what I've heard from many people. DeLand is much smaller, and DeLand does not have the beaches that Daytona Beach has, but don't think that there's nothing to do in DeLand. DeLand is famous for its skydiving. They've got the St. Johns River, all sorts of natural springs, mostly just north and just south of DeLand, but right there. They've got downtown DeLand, they've got Stetson University, and look, I'll include a video at the end of this video of some of my favorite things to do in DeLand at the end of this video. Daytona's beaches are fine, but frankly, I think there's better beaches up in Ormond, Flagler, or even down in New Smyrna. Now, I don't say this as an indictment upon Daytona Beach, but more rather to point out that there's more than just Daytona's beaches. There's the Daytona International Speedway, which is near all sorts of shopping. There's restaurants, there's the aquarium, there's a great disc golf course, the Boardwalk, Ponce Inlet, and a whole lot more. Although DeLand has some great nightlife, it's still just a small town, whereas Daytona Beach has an abundance of nightlife. Maybe it's just the size of Daytona Beach, or maybe it's all the tourists that create the need, but there's just more in Daytona Beach. Bike Week, Biketoberfest are events that are really to behold. I live over near DeLand, but even I know when Bike Week and Biketoberfest are here. The rumbling of those bikes in March and October, it's unmistakable. As of this recording, the MLS indicates that the median sale price of a residential home over the last few months in DeLand was right around $340,000, whereas the median sale price of a residential home over in Daytona Beach was right around $285,000. So it's less expensive to live in Daytona Beach, right? Well, no, I would not say that's the case. Daytona Beach has all those homes on the Atlantic's beaches and on both sides of the Halifax River, which tend to drive prices up. However, they've also got some less expensive condos, which I'll address more soon, and some older homes with lower home values. So maybe Daytona Beach is just more of, kind of a Jekyll and Hyde. whereas DeLand is mostly comprised of single-family residential homes that are more similar. If we're talking about housing, then here in Florida we need to address taxes and insurance. Now both DeLand and Daytona Beach are in Volusia County, which have relatively high millage rates compared to other Florida counties. However, the cost of insurance tends to be higher near the beaches, although the cost of insurance throughout Florida has reached crisis levels as of this recording. So if you're thinking of moving to DeLand or Daytona Beach, be sure to check out the cost of insurance before you close on that new home. Daytona Beach has an abundance of condos right on or right near the beach. They're great for snowbirds, those that live up north but spend their winters in Florida. They're generally low in maintenance and usually come with lower prices than single-family homes. Yes, condos have condo fees and they have some assessments, which are big in the news lately, but they can also sometimes be rented out, paying for themselves. DeLand, on the other hand, has very few condos relatively. Over the years, we've had a lot of people reach out from other states and ask us to help them find a home here in our area. When they do, some of our customers say the beach life is a big deal to them. They sometimes end up heading up to Ormond Beach or down to New Smyrna Beach, where we help them find homes. It's a cheap plug, but I've got a short-term rental in New Smyrna Beach if you're interested. If you are thinking of moving anywhere in Central Florida, just pick up the phone and give us a shout. DeLand and Daytona both have hurricanes, and that's going to freak some of you out, I know. But to us locals, they're just part of the game here. Just like you've got snow and ice up north and tornadoes and mudslides and drought out west, we don't make too much of a thing of them here. However, remember that I said that DeLand was 30 miles inland? Well, those 30 miles are a huge deal to a hurricane, and hurricanes can lose quite a bit of their punch in those 30 miles. DeLand, and all inland Florida for that matter, is still impacted by hurricanes, but it's usually much worse over closer to the beaches. So which is better? Is it DeLand for that small town feel, or is it Daytona Beach for the beaches? How important is the beach life? Do you like a larger town with more nightlife, or are you a small town person? It really depends on you and what you like. For me, I like the small town feel of DeLand. My wife loves the beaches and I love fishing in the saltwater river and marshes, so we make the short ride east and it's never been a big deal to us. We believe that the DeLand area gives us the best of both worlds. If you'd like to know more about DeLand, click this video.